Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today we're going to take some time to review a book that I recently completed. That book is going to be Linux Basics for Hackers. I purchased this book just a few weeks back just to add to my fundamental skills within Linux. Through Reddit and some YouTube videos, I heard this was a good book. I got some good reviews and I just went for it. Overall, it's a pretty good book. Introduces pretty much an overview for a lot of different fundamental tools and commands. So today we're not going to cover everything in the book, but just some fundamental skills and foundational skills to take away. With that being said, the book does not go too much into detail. Like I said, I took the information from the book and did some additional research, played around a little bit inside of like a little playground folder to not mess with anything else. Read into the manual pages. A lot of this I actually already knew, but I do find it being fundamentally important that we understand these commands and these tools. So I just wanted to take some time today to go over that with you guys. Alright, so the first tool that we're going to talk about today is going to be locate. So to find any file, directory, or any tool, command, or anything that's in the Linux file system, you could go ahead and use this command right here, locate. You could obviously learn more about it in the manual pages. So essentially it reads the database. So as you can see here, locate reads one or more databases prepared by this command right here, or this tool right here, update database. So essentially this is ran daily through Cronjob, which is set up automatically when you download the package. But anything that is in that database is what we could find. So also there is a lot of options and flags that we can go ahead and use if we ever needed to, but I'm just gonna go over some simple stuff today. So for one example, let's go ahead and find that cron.daily that I was just talking about. So we just do cron or locate cron.daily. These are going to show the files that it finds on this system. So in there, obviously, then we could see the locate. So that's going to be the cron job that is run daily to update the update database, which locate reads from. So knowing that it updates daily, so that could mean that if we create a file right now, and we try to locate that, we're not going to find that file. So we would have to either wait until that script is ran daily, or we could just update it manually by just running the sudo update database command. And now if we just scroll up, run that same command, you could see that it was found in the playground directory. Alright, so that's pretty useful obviously. So locate, like I said, could find files, directories very easily, or anything that is located within that database. Another useful way or an example that I would use the locate command. So let's say we forgot where the sshd or the config file is found. So we could just go ahead and do locate sshd, or just do that, maybe locate ssh and then just do grep sshd config to kind of narrow it down. Obviously if we did locate, there's gonna be a lot more. So if you use if you pipe it into grep, then obviously you can get a better search. And then the last example that I would like to discuss is just using the exit status. So let's say we want to maybe use this in a script. So the script would be like, locate this file. If it does not exist, then create it or something like that. And you could base it on that exit status. So if the exit status is 0, which you could find somewhere in the manual page. I'm not gonna search it right now. I know it is in here though. It does tell you that 0, I believe, is a correct or exit status, saying that it found this file or this directory or whatever the case may be, whereas 1 is it's not been found. So you could use that. So just to show it, we'll just do locate file not found, and then if we were to echo the exit status with this special parameter, you can see that we have 0. So we could use that in the script. So if it printed 0, then we would know that this file exists and we don't have to create it. But if we did like, and then printed that exit status, we're gonna get a 1. So now we're saying that this file does not exist, or this directory does not exist. Go ahead and create it. Alright, so the next command that we're going to talk about is find. It's obviously similar to locate, But instead of using that update database or that database to read from, it's going to go ahead and use a directory hierarchy. We're pretty much just searching everything within that directory that you are in or that you designate. So we'll go ahead and clear that out. So find by default will use the current directory that you are in. So if we just do find, you're going to see everything in this directory. So let's go ahead and just go to root, and like you can see here, obviously there's a lot of stuff that's going to be in root. But to specify a path, if you want to do that, you go ahead and just do find and then home directory. So that's everything that's in my home directory. In addition to not only doing the specifying the path, but you could also specify the file name and the file type. So let's go ahead and just do file or find in the home directory a F, which is a file, not a directory, and then the name of it, we're going to do users.txt, which I believe was in that playground folder. Yep. So we assigned a path with a file type as file, and then we were searching for the users.txt file. Another command, there's tons of options. Like I said, just like locate, this one has a lot more though. It is definitely more customizable as far as what you could do. One last example that you could do with find, maybe you want to throw this in a script or something like that, which I may be doing soon for some backups that I'm doing. Just like find these file names and then delete it. I don't know, I haven't figured it out yet. But another example of this would be, so let's say we could just do this since we already know this exists. I would not suggest doing this anything in a production environment or anything like that, or at least do the find command to see what the result would be before you run this delete option. But you could also just do this, just do delete. So anything that it finds, we'll just delete it. Now if we were to try to find it again, it's not going to exist. So instead of doing like, maybe you want to find anything that was inside of a certain directory, obviously you wouldn't want to do like find anything that's in root and delete it. You know, be careful. Careful what you do for sure. Alright, so the next command that we're going to use is grep, which is obviously one of the most popular commands or the most common commands that you will use. I use it all the time. So real quick, some things that you could do with it. So we have this users.txt file, and we have admin, and jack. Pay attention to the lowercase a and uppercase a. We're going to talk about that in a second. So let's say we had a long file maybe of users or something, password, I don't know, something that's you want to take out of it or see if it exists, a pattern exists inside of that file. So just go ahead and do grep what you're searching for or that pattern that you're searching for, and then do the file name, so users.txt, and that'll be admin. But if you want to go ahead and do that same thing, but let's say maybe get lowercase and uppercase, or not pay attention to the if it's uppercase or lowercase, then you would use the -i option and then do the same thing. Then there you go. Another thing that you could do that's pretty cool, you could do the egrep. You could read this all on the manual page, but you do egrep, which is just a variant of grep, and then you could run the I, and then run the -w option, which will turn this pipe. I can't remember what it's exactly called, but in this particular instance, it's going to be considered as like a OR operator, a logical OR operator. So it's saying, let's search for admin or jack, and then print whatever is true. So we'll just do that, and then just do user.txt. So there you go. It's saying we have admin, and then jack. Yeah, I use it all the time. So like, for example, if you want to use, maybe you want to read inside of the grep, instead of reading the whole thing, you want to just search specifically for maybe a count option that you've heard about or you remember reading about, or whatever the case may be. Just do grep count, and it's going to only print those lines that have count in it. If it did not have count, you're not going to see it. So sometimes you will miss out on things. You may have to play around exactly what you're searching for, but that is what I use it for most. Next, we're going to talk about less, another common tool that you will use very often. The old version of this was more, which is allowing you to read a file essentially, but less is just an improved version of more, which makes even less sense. No pun intended. But So let's say we wanted to, I got an idea. It took me a little bit to think about what would be a good example. So let's say you wanted to locate like the Python package, or the directory, I should say. So if you just did like locate Python, there's gonna be a ton of stuff. But if you were to pipe that into less, now you have just that output inside of less, which is super useful. So you can just scroll up and down. Whereas if you were in the other one, you would have to you would have everything else mixed into it. But also there's a bunch of different options also inside of less, which is super cool. I don't know much of it yet. I am still learning it, but a simple one is just like Control F on Windows. You just do like the backslash, which is kind of universal in a lot of programs, I've been realizing, or a lot of tools. But if you were to just do snap, it's you could just do, you can see everything for snap, and then you could do N. Just hit N, the key N, to scroll down or see the next snap, and then capital N would scroll up to the previous snap. But yeah, that's pretty much it about less. Like I said, there's a lot of options inside of there, so I definitely urge you to go in there and just read, see what you could do. Go on Google, go on YouTube, see what else is out there. But I use less also a lot. I just pipe stuff into less to scroll up and down and then search in that output. The next thing I want to talk about really quick is permissions. Obviously, that is a important thing or concept that you must understand within Linux. It is brought up all the time. So let's go ahead and create a file real quick. So if we were to run the long format of that, and we would just see the permissions file that we just created. So right now these are the permissions over here. So the first dash is going to specify if it's a file or a directory. If it's a dash, that is a file, whereas if it was a directory, IM that I just created, you can see here that it is a D. Alright, cool. So the next thing to look at is the RW and then the dash. So the first group of 3 is going to be the user that is created this file. Then you have the group that user exists or belongs to. And then the all others, everyone else. So to change those permissions, all you have to do is, well, there's 2 ways to go about it. Well, I think there's 3, but you could use chmod, and then you could just do like user and then give him executable rights. Sorry, we gotta do the file type, that would help. And if we run that back, you could see that not only does it turn green because the ls alias, or I think that's how you say it. I'm not saying it right, I know I'm not. As you can see, it turned green. And then for the user, we have read, write, and execute. Now if we were to do chmod -x or u -x, now we took that away. But the same thing applies if we were to do chmod u and then g and then +x. I did the same thing again, sorry. As you can see, now we have for the user and group, and then you can do the same thing by just adding an O, and that would be all others. So now everyone has these rights. But the other way to change it is using like the octals or binary, pretty much. So clear that out. So read, write, and execute is defined with 4, 2, and 1. So 4 is going to be read, and then write is going to be 2, and then execute is 1. So for instance, if we were to do chmod 4, 2, 1, you can see that we have read, write, and execute. But if we were to do chmod, so if you were to combine them all, so 4 + 2 + 1 would be 7. That would give us read, write, and execute for the user. Then if we were to do 1 and 1 for permissions file, that's going to give us read, write, and execute for the user, and then it's just going to be execute for both the group and the user, which obviously doesn't make much sense. But if we were to go ahead and run that, you can see here we have read, write, execute, and then execute and execute. I know I'm going kind of fast. I was trying to keep it under 15 minutes or even 10, but I'm still trying to learn this whole YouTube out, so we're just going to keep on pressing on. So that is important to understand. That's pretty much it. There's not much more to it, but definitely want to understand that as far as that goes. But the next thing we're going to talk about is PS and HTOP. So in order to view the processes, just like on Windows, if you were to go to the task manager, you can run the PS command, and that's going to show all the we'll run that in with head, so it's going to print the first 10 lines within the processes with the aux options. But that's going to show us every process that is running if we were to run the whole thing. But as you can see, it gives us the user that it's running, the PID or the process identifier, the CPU percentage that's taken up, memory, etc., etc. Same thing as it is on Windows, and then the command that is started that process. But another one that is more useful, I find to be more useful, which is like a live view of it, just run the HTOP, which is a extended version or improved version of top. So this is what top looks like, and then you got HTOP. So here you could see all the processes running in a live view, has the same stats. You got process identifier, user, etc., etc., etc. Up here you have a live view of the CPU that's being used and the memory, which has helped me in the past with troubleshooting some server issues that I had from a Minecraft server. Super cool. And also within this tool, you go ahead and like kill a process, which is nice. So I'll just go over that real quick. So let's go ahead and run tmux, and we're going to split this screen, and then in this screen we're going to run a Python module for the HTTP server, and just run it on 8000 just to kind of get a process running. And then in this we'll run htop. Then if we were to search that process just like we would in less, we're just going to run the / command where to find it, which I can see right there. Obviously we don't need to search it, but we will go ahead and do that anyway. So we're going to search python 3-m. I'm going to go ahead and hit it's already highlighted, and then we're going to hit F9 and then hit enter. And as you can see on the left, the window over here, it has killed or terminated that process for Python, and that's it. All right, and then we're going to close out the video with just talking about 3 more commands or tools. The first one being dig, the second one being services, and the last one being crontab or cronjobs. So dig is a DNS lookup utility. It performs DNS lookups used often for troubleshooting DNS problems within a server or a environment. Alright, so easy enough. We could just go ahead and run the dig command and then just specify an address, so google.com, and that will resolve the A record as this IP address. We can then go ahead and run a reverse lookup by just copying that and then using the -x option, which has this pointer address assigned to that. And then last but not least, we could also do or specify a DNS server. So instead of using what is inside of our resolve.configuration file, we go ahead and run the dig command again with the @ symbol, and then specify maybe like a Google DNS server, and then run google.com again. And as you can see down here, we still resolve it to this IP address, and then you can see that its origination is from 8.8. Alright, so the next concept that we must be familiar with is going to be the service. So this will allow us to check the status on any services running on the Linux machine, and also go ahead and start or stop that service. So simply enough, we go ahead and run on Ubuntu, and then we're going to check if the cron service is running. As you can see here, it is active and running, and is since Monday. But if we were to, let's say, run system control, but let's say for whatever reason maybe that service was not running. So for instance, if we were to run sudo system control stop cron and then run that status again, we can see obviously it is now considered inactive. So if we wanted to get that service back up and running, just going to go ahead and just put start. Make sure you run the sudo. There we go. So then run the status again, status check. As you can see, it is running. So that's going to be a popular thing that you need to get used to, or a common thing you need to get used to, because a lot of times maybe SSH will stop working, and that is the reason why. And then the last utility I want to talk about is the cron tab. So it is just a job scheduler. So On my Minecraft server, for example, I run a job every night at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning to restart the server, run an update, and then also back up the server to the cloud. So that is done with cron tab. So if you were to go run cron tab -e, this is going to be for specifically for that user that is signed in without sudo privileges. But you would go down here, and then the first one you're going to specify would be the minute. So let's say every minute at the 2 o'clock hour on every day of every month and every day throughout the week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you will run this script. Or like for example up here it says run the tar -zcf So what that would do is that it would run every day at 2 p.m. for every minute within 2 to 3, which is absolutely insane. Obviously, it would back up this. It would back up the home directory and label it the this right here, home. It's pretty much it. There's not much more to Cronjob, so you could just specify the time. You could also use like a shortcut like daily and then run that command. So every day at daily or midnight, it'll run that command instead of specifying the exact details here. Another good tool that I found that helped me out a lot, this website right here, crontab.guru. You can break down exactly what you want. So this command will run every 5 minutes of every hour of every day of every month, etc., etc. We can just play around with this and put whatever you want here at 1 minute, and then we'll say let's run it on Sunday on the 23rd. But yeah, it's a good utility to have to make sure that you're putting the right options for Cronjob. Alright, so that's going to close out today's video. Like I said, I just want to do a quick overview of that book that I recently completed, and I wanted to give you some tips and tools and utilities that I had learned from the book. Most of it I already knew, but I did dig a little bit further into the manual pages, did some research online, watched some more videos, and I urge you to do the same. So with that being said, until next time, never stop learning.